by Lydia Jackson. Lydia is a machine, or actually, she's a machine learning engineer. But when I first read it, I read it as she's a machine. She's a machine learning engineer with a focus on soccer analytics at Teamworks and previously Zelus. She received a master's in data science from the University of Texas last year. So, Lydia, turn it over to you.
Okay, I've never been called a machine, at least off the pitch, but thanks, Jen. And thanks to the committee, this has been an amazing event so far. Really awesome to be here. I'm Lydia Jackson, a machine learning engineer for Teamworks, formerly Zelus, and really excited to talk about building Shiny apps for rapid prototyping. So just to give a little context before we jump into talking about Shiny, I thought it was important to talk about what it is that we do. Our team really focuses on building best-in-class player evaluation models, and then we help professional clubs use these models, our data and our tools that we build, to make decisions based on for player recruitment. Our team is about 10 people full-time. We have a few part-time people, so I think Ariel mentioned 12 earlier today, but a really great group of people to work with. Okay, so how it all got started with Shiny. So in this role, we receive a lot of different questions. These are mainly from the clubs that we work with, but also from our internal team members and even leadership. And these are some examples. I think it'll make sense as we kind of talk through some examples of our prototypes that we've built. So I just want to kind of read through these. How good is this player in this role? Are players getting worse? Why don't I see my team's most recent match report? That one hurts me. I have anxiety just saying that question. What manager would be a good fit? Or coach, I should say coach. It's American Soccer Conference. How does this player's performance in that league translate to this league? And who should we sell this player to? So these questions are diverse, they're time sensitive, and really critical for decision making. And so what happens is when we receive a question, a typical workflow looked like this. We decide we should build a report to answer this question. We deliver this report and everybody's happy, right? Well, as we know, this is not always reality. The data vendor might push a change, or we receive more data and this data quickly becomes out of date. Or even the stakeholder might change the question slightly, and so we're constantly kind of retweaking and rebuilding reports, which is really ineffective, time-consuming, and just not fun. This is me, if you can't tell. So this really helps kind of define our problem, and that there's a constant demand for fast, insightful, and accessible answers. With us in the loop, it kind of creates this bottleneck, right? And so as demand grows, our ability to deliver suffers. So enter Shiny. This is the solution that we've embraced to tackle these challenges head on. And there's a few important reasons why this was a good fit. First, it's a skill set fit for our team. Our team's expertise lies in R, and although you can build Shiny in R or Python, it just already integrates with the tools and the frameworks that we're already using. Shiny end users can become more self-sufficient. So instead of relying on us to generate these new reports, Shiny kind of empowers users to explore the data themselves. Interactive, Shiny's interactive. So kind of along the lines of the self-sufficiency, we've realized that this interactivity kind of fosters better engagement and feedback with our users. And lastly, like most of you all, as I've heard about budgets yesterday and today, we need a solution that doesn't require significant investment in new infrastructure. So this is great, right? If anyone saw this live, this was wonderful. Very quickly, we ran into some new challenges. So while Shiny is a powerful tool, building apps from scratch can be time intensive, especially for rapid prototyping. So we wanted to find a way to really reduce this development time. And then second, how are we going to deploy and manage many apps to many users? So to address this first challenge of improving kind of this development time, we created this app template. And over the years, our app template has evolved and grown a lot, but this is essentially how it started and how I'd kind of recommend if you're going to create your own R package today, you should start here. And that's kind of using this Golem R package. It's a really great package to help you kind of create, develop, and then deploy your app. And really with just 2 lines of code, you can get started and have your own app. So you would create a Golem project, and you would run the function create Golem and pass it Golex. You could actually name it whatever you want, but that's what Golem likes to recommend. This would create an R package for you, and then you would use that R package to call the function run app, and you would have an app. I haven't entered any information, so this is just straight out of the box. It would build and run an app for you on the right. And as you can see here on the left, this is kind of, as I had mentioned, it is set up as an R package, so that should look familiar in terms of structure and organization. But it's nice because it handles the inner workings of Shiny for you. And so what do I mean by this kind of inner workings of Shiny? So there's this great analogy by Megan Harris here that if the Shiny app is like a car, you have the UI and the server. And the UI is essentially everything that the user needs to drive the car and like feel comfortable while using it. And the server is everything under the hood that like makes the car run properly. And so on the left here, you can see we have the UI and the server logic already created for you, which is great. And it's actually separate files. So like me being like that organization, I love to see that. And then you have some development code here for you to get started, kind of update some of the templated information that you saw and deploy the app. The second thing we've done in terms of creating this app template is we've built reusable logic. The first thing we've done is kind of standardize these common UI components. So what I mean by UI components are these elements here on the right. These are things that you would put in sliders or drop downs or even tables. And these are pretty common for us across any app, like loading various metrics, how you want to summarize data by, the competitions, the seasons of data that you have, and just any option that you would give the user. We've also kind of created functions for common data queries. So again, anything that you're constantly querying, for us this looks like grabbing player season summary level data. Also team match level data is used pretty commonly. And then lastly, we've implemented this custom logic. So this is kind of like specific utilities that are unique to like our workflow. For us, this is logging, caching, just helps us really ensure consistency across our apps. So this template has been great for us. It's really accelerated our app development. Our developers can focus on like solving the specific problem instead of reinventing the wheel or even trying to figure out how to make Shiny work and work fast. Okay, so deployment. So although it's relatively easy to create a Shiny app and then run a Shiny app on your local machine, deploying it in the cloud in a production environment can be a daunting task. And trust me, this is not a supercomputer, so if this diagram freaks you out, don't worry. But there are many different ways that you can deploy your Shiny apps, and they all have their various advantages and drawbacks, but we have chosen to use Shiny Proxy, and Shiny Proxy is open source, so back to that cost-effective solution for hosting our Shiny apps. Now, Shiny Proxy is not limited to just Shiny, although that's how they got started. They also work with Flash, Dash, Streamlit, essentially any web application that you can embed into a Docker image, Shiny Proxy can host it, which is really awesome. So Shiny Proxy kind of acts as this application gateway. It handles our user authentication, our app routing, and really just kind of manages the life cycle of our Shiny apps. And essentially what it does is when the user logs into an app, it spins up this containerized instance of the app, like on demand, which is really nice. And then these processes are kind of independent of one another. So with Docker, each user session has its own isolated workspace and our process, again, which is really great because there's no concurrent usage of a Shiny app with no limits, which is really awesome. And then in terms of this machine, this broader rectangle as you see here, we use AWS, so we have an EC2 instance here that acts as our server. So once our apps are ready to deploy, we have a really simple process for anyone really to deploy our apps into a dev environment or a staging environment or even production. All right, let's look at a few examples of things we've built. I'm really excited to share because I feel like when you work for a private company, you don't really get to share or talk about the work that you do. So prototypes are kind of a safe place to do that. First, we have a coaching app that we've created. One of our data scientists has created, and the question that he was looking to answer was, how do coaches affect team-level performance across a variety of metrics? And so how this question came to be was one of the clubs that we were working with was considering getting rid of their manager. And they wanted some information to be able to use to make a suggestion on who they should hire, kind of based on the players that they had and the style that they play. So this app tries to explain these style metrics, kind of using historical performance of 2 lineups in a match, and then the identity of the coach. So essentially here we're we're comparing these expected values versus these actual values. So for example, if the Houston Dash is expected to have a PPDA of 10 against a more stronger Orlando Pride team, sorry Houston, but actually records a PPDA of 7, we pick up on some information here that the coach has the impact of lowering their team's PPDA. And for us, this kind of implies that, you know, maybe they had a more high kind of aggressive press during this match. So we apply this approach across a variety of metrics, and then we add it into the coach effect here in this app. So as you can see here on the left, you have various metrics that you can toggle to the degree of intensity or influence here, and then it returns a list of managers. This was for a men's football club, so it doesn't relate to my example that I just shared, but you can see the list of coaches returned, and they can download this if they do want a static report. This took James about a day to pull the data and then use our app template. This was kind of early on in our app template phase, and created this and deployed it in a day, which was really quick to be able to get feedback from the clubs that we work with. The second example is a pipeline monitoring system called Giroud. So this is an internal tool, prototype app, that provides kind of real-time tracking of our data ingestion and process. So at the top here, this is zoomed out, so I know it's probably hard to see. We'll zoom in here in a second, but at the top you have a high-level summary, kind of using these green, yellow, and red indicators to provide a quick status of really some important things that we want to track. And at the bottom here, you can drill down into more specific details of individual matches, where the errors are, etc. Okay, so here's an example of that high-level alert summary. Our Shiny app sends a daily Slack message, and this is what the message looks like. And it will ping whoever is on call, or the broader soccer group if we see a lot of red boxes here. So Tan, it looks like you have a few issues to take a look at. I've had to blur a few kind of vendor club-related information for privacy, but as you can see here in yellow, we have 5 tracking data competitions that we have received, and this is really important for us because we sync event and tracking data competitions across a lot of different vendors here, so it's really important for us just to have our eyes on what new competitions have come in. And then the other thing that's probably interesting to this group is that we really care about our partner club matches, right? As soon as we receive and ingest that data, we need to make sure that it has been processed in our pipeline and then available to our clubs. And then this is kind of that bottom level summary of kind of drilling down into the data here. And what's really nice is there's a Docker command string up here. So whoever's on call can literally just paste this into the terminal and reprocess matches, figure out if there's an error, triage it, determine if they need to solve it or pass it along. So in terms of lightening the load for engineering, this has been great. Our data scientists can jump in even if they're not familiar with our pipeline or other engineering related tasks. This is really critical for us. So this has been a prototype that we've used and now is kind of like in our everyday workflow and Giroud, so guaranteeing the integrity and reliability of our data. Hopefully that makes sense. It's like when you do these prototypes, you're like, oh, we'll name this great funny thing, and then we'll change it once it ends up in production and it just sticks. So thanks for that, Tan. Okay, and so I'd like to share some lessons learned over the last couple years from building Shiny apps. These insights have really helped us, improve our efficiency, our scalability, and just like overall impact. So first is leverage data table for speed and efficiency. Especially working with large data sets, data table is so fast. And not only is it fast, but it's also memory efficient. So when working with an app that needs to be responsive, this is really critical. I often get speed ups in the magnitude of like a 20x, which is insane, I know, because I love tidyverse. But the syntax can be a little more unfamiliar if you are used to like kind of a traditional tidyverse. So I recommend using the native pipe, as you can see below, and either of these two syntax, either the DT or the underscore, to kind of chain information together here. Including a lot of comments in your code just for readability and maintainability. Separate your app logic from your business logic. So app logic, again, is this UI and this server code. And then we also have our business logic, right? It's really easy to kind of combine this together. And I don't just mean like in the actual files. But in order to kind of keep it separate, this is important because you'll want to be able to test this business logic without having to run a Shiny app every single time. So this has kind of helped us in terms of our development time and also just being code organized. Incorporate logging for better debugging and monitoring. So we want to capture these key events, right, such as user interactions, performance metrics. You really want to know, are they even using your app, right? This helps simplify debugging. I like to use the logger package. You can set various thresholds. It really helps you, you're not getting inundated with logging unless you really need to be. It also informs optimization, right? So you're collecting all these different insights, and you'll start to kind of pick up on areas that you can improve or optimize, like functionality, but also the user experience. And then lastly, keep it simple. Right, you want to focus on the primary question or objective. It's really easy to want to add a bunch of features or even a lot of data to start. Limit reactivity. So reactivity is one of Shiny's superpowers, but trust me, it can really make your life hard. So go easy on it. And last, iterate gradually. You want to move fast, right? You're prototyping here, but you should really start with a MVA, a minimal viable app. This will kind of prevent feature creep and allow you to really collect feedback and really help your app stay aligned with user needs. Your app doesn't need to look pretty, right? You can make time for that later if your app does provide value and ends up sticking around. So to end here, Shiny is more than a tool. It's a way to turn your ideas into impactful interactive solutions. I really believe that with the right approach, like anyone can build a Shiny app that provides immediate value, that makes data more accessible. So start small, iterate, and I really think you'll be amazed at what you can create. Thanks.